Hello, it's Tommy here, and I'm doing another kind of politics thing. We're kind of asking today, basically things about voting. Yeah, and we take it for granted these days, I suppose, that we all, or most of us, can vote. And we have this kind of idea that we're all free and democratised in this society we live in. And we feel like we have a right or a say over how our lives can be, and it wasn't always like that, and it may not be like that today either, but it may look like that, but you can decide that. Voting really just came in the last 90 year people could vote from. Yeah, 90 year, you think about that isn't that long ago. We're talking 200 years or so, 1800s, that a couple of adults in every 100 could vote, and that was the ones that were male and they had a bit of money about them, a bit of wealth. Then it kind of progressed a wee bit as things do, and it progressed to landowners, yeah, and them kind of getting the vote around about 1832 or so. I'll put the sound up here, there we go. And it progressed to the landowners, obviously, and it kind of leaseholders, whatever it may be. It increased the amount of adults per 100 that could vote, and to about 5 or 6 or so per 100 could vote, but still left like 95 out of 100 that couldn't vote. And decisions were getting made in our country, in the United Kingdom that is, on whatever laws that most of the laws that we live by today still, and they were getting made by wealthy people, the decisions, and the poorer people, not in a class system really, but you could probably class it as like obviously a bourgeoisie proletariat type thing, middle class we have these days, but we wasn't anybody kind of having a say over their life, and that was like 200 years ago, yeah, 170 years ago, and then around about 150 years ago it went up a wee bit, because I say to people, well, we can maybe kind of extend it a wee bit, and create different kind of things where people can vote, but it'll increase that another maybe fivefold, or 5 people I should say, per 100, maybe about 10 or 12 people 100 could vote, and that was maybe about the kind of 1870s or so, and that was just through different kind of reform acts that came in. And then it started to get a bit better, if you're kind of making some sort of decent money, if you're working class that is, then if you're in a kind of no bad position and quite a good job, you were able to then go and vote as well. Yeah, very nice of them. And that was maybe taken into like a quarter of the population could vote then, which was a big improvement from a way back in the 1800s, or at the beginning of the 1800s, when only a couple of people could vote, like 3 people or so out of every 100. So it was improving, it was increasing by maybe a good few percent there. It was up to 25% of the population could vote, which might mean that 25% of the population was getting a wee bit richer, yeah, or deemed as a wee bit richer and better off. And that was just before the 1900s. Yeah, not that long ago. And then you go into the 1900s and maybe about 18-20 years into it, and you had the Representation of People Act, and it basically made people of the age of 21 able to vote, and women over the age of 30 could vote as well, and they could also sit in the House of Commons. So it just took a big shift there over the space of like 118 or 120 years. Then it took a big shift from people not being able to vote or anything, just a couple of wealthy people, to people being able to sit in the Commons, House of Commons, and making decisions on big matters that were just from working class or kind of working middle class type backgrounds, or it could have been the more affluent as well, but they were getting outnumbered a wee bit with the more kind of industrial aged people coming through. Yeah, that was people who were working class in factories. So that was good. So it was starting to kind of make progress over that 120 year, and the voting obviously became something people wanted to do because they were going to get permission to do it. And around about 1928, 1930, I think it was 1920 actually, there was a People's Act again that kind of took it to a more different level, if you like, and extended the voting age, if you like, 21. So basically, everybody, men and women, could vote from 21 years of age. So if you're under that, you couldn't vote, but if you're 21 or over, you could vote. And that just totally changed the way things are, and pretty much solidified where it sort of stands today, even though we have the 18 years of age bracket now, which was a later on addition, near enough the end of the 60s. But certainly that kind of 1928 Act was the one that actually cemented the system that we have now, and that is the one that says, well, basically let people vote, and most of the people at 100, so about 90% out of 100 or so, could actually vote, and then they lowered it down to 18, maybe 50 years later or so, and that was about 1970 odds, 1969, 70, and that was quite a big improvement because it allowed people a better opportunity, the younger they were as well, to actually have a better say over their future, which really is democracy in its finest, I think. And then, well, you get these days, didn't you? You know, you pretty much get in Scotland right now, they're going to lower it to 16 and 17 year olds can vote at the next referendum for Scottish independence. So over the space of 200 years or so, it has actually went from nobody votes hardly to 16 and 17 year olds voting in the present day, in the Scottish system anyway. The English system still has 18 year olds voting, and you can't vote under that, but it may change. This might pilot as an idea in Scotland, and it might actually kind of branch out to the other parts of the United Kingdom if it's successful. Voting is such a thing that we take maybe for granted as well. You think of all the people who fought for rights to vote, people who wanted, you know, that say in their society, and that's roughly the kind of journey it took, the one I just mentioned. And today's politicians obviously are career politicians, and they want people to vote for them and so on, and we have that right because, as was explained, that most people can vote unless they don't register to vote, and as long as they're over 18 and obviously 16 it will be soon in Scotland. So, you know, there's definitely changes there, as we said too. But voting turnout only seems to be about 40% in the last elections. I think that's the Westminster elections and Scottish elections and council elections. It's around about the 40%, give or take, you know, back and forward a couple of percent. And you've got to wonder to yourself, I mean, do people actually know how to use that vote these days? And they say they've not any kind of confidence in politicians, and it's a waste of time voting and so on. But if you look back when people just began to vote, you know, like as a full nation, it wasn't even 100 years ago, it was 90 years ago, as we mentioned before. And 90 years later, people are fed up voting. Why is that? I mean, should people maybe look at that and just see, you know, are they doing the right thing? If the voting's not working, what do you think? Do you think it's something that we should look at again and think, why is it not working? Is there a better system? Has anybody come up with a better system? Or is the system we got good? It's just that what we're voting for is not that good, and therefore, as people are saying rightfully then, it's not worth a voting for? Or are people just in this kind of complex spiral effect thing in their mind, where they've got the media telling them all sorts of spin in that spiral, and they're believing it, and they're thinking, oh, I'm not voting for them, they're corrupt, they're taking expenses, they are building a moat with our money, they're hiring decorators or cleaners to do their houses up. I'm not voting for them, I can't have that stuff, why should they? They're not getting my vote. Is that the way we should really think about that? Have we allowed it to go to that stage where MPs do things as reported by the media, which incidentally is run by people who, are in politics sometimes. Yeah, BBC is one of them, even though it says impartial. Is it really? Can it be totally impartial? Does all this information on the internet, all this stuff coming into our brains, it would never come into our brains maybe 20 years ago, we never had internet, never had 24-hour news channels. Is all this stuff too much for us? It actually has got to a stage where we no longer want to take part in the reality of outside our own homes, therefore we're not voting. As long as we're okay in our homes, we've got our jobs, our families are okay, then what's it got to do with us? Anything that happens outside that? Have we got to that stage where we've got so much freedom, and in some sort of interpretation, that the freedom we have, if you want to put it that way, has led us to believe what we hear with second-hand information, i.e. media, to actually then influence to make a decision on first-hand awareness, really, or information, whatever it may be, we should actually be taking part in, which is the politics part of it, which is the voting part of it. This interference is happening between all these internet sources and medias and newspapers, interfering the true connection we have with our political society, which is designed to actually help us live in a more democratised, free type country. And I'm not really caring about England and Scotland, if you want to call it England and Scotland. I just see it as one thing right now, because everybody is in the same boat. We're on the same island. So I just feel like I had to do this wee show to kind of ask that question: why do we vote? And I think that the struggles to actually get the vote in the first place should justify. That's why we vote. We vote because we want to lose that right to vote. We don't want to lose that right to actually stand up for ourselves and be heard. So many people have fought to actually give us a right to be able to take part in decision making in our lives on that level. And then people just don't turn up for elections to vote, to ballot boxes. Don't fill in the crosses and tick whatever and take an interest in it. That's why we vote. We vote because we have the right to see what is out there that is best for us, what's best to represent us, what's best to actually make decisions on our behalf when we can't make decisions totally as a collective, all at once. We have these certain bodies like Prime Ministers or monarchies and so on, but in our case Prime Ministers and First Ministers. We have these people and these parties to actually make decisions for us, so our lives fall in hands. It doesn't always work, it doesn't always go as smoothly as it should. That shouldn't deter us from voting. We should be out there voting in our droves to actually make it better. If it doesn't work the first time, we go out again and do it again. That's why we vote. That's why these people who fought for years and years and years to get a vote and chipped away at the establishment to get us in the door, that is why they done it, because they understood that we need to have that say. We cannot afford to ignore it. We cannot afford it. 40% turnout, and you wonder why we're in the mess we're in economies and banks going wild and all these different other scandals that are happening in the world. Have we chosen the right governments? We couldn't even choose, well, the English couldn't even choose, in England by the way, because in Scotland, so the English couldn't even choose a full government the last election. They had to choose a bit of Conservative, a bit of Labour, a bit of Liberal Democrats, and they might say there's no choice out there. That is all there is. Well, stand up yourself and go for election. It's £500 or something to put your name forward. Stand as independent. Represent the people in your community. That's a reason to take part in a politic thing, isn't it? That's a reason. When you want to do better for your community and you know what makes your community tick and what it needs and the people in it, you know and you've maybe taken part in the school stuff and community centre stuff and gala days, you know that these things are fuzzy feeling type things, and they make people feel happy. They're necessary things for education, they're proper things for culture. So why do you stand yourself if you know confidence in the politicians that are actually asking for your votes? There's no reason that we should have a 40% turnout in this country. You get people in the Arab countries, that you had the Arab Spring recently in the last year or two. You stuff in Egypt right now, they're fighting for democracy and votes. Yeah, us, we would rather sit with our TVs and our PlayStations, our Xboxes, our internet, or go in our cars, or go to McDonald's or KFC, or go shopping at a shopping centre, and pretend the rest of the world isn't out there, and pretend that we actually need to have a say in our lives, because we say to be doing okay as we're ticking along, spending our money or going to our work and talking to our family and watching about Coronation Street or EastEnders. We think that's our life. That'll always be your life if you don't stand up and look at what you think your family and that could do for the future. There's people who aren't even born yet, and the things that you do now will affect them. So 40% turnout at voting, it's pretty rubbish, isn't it? When you think it, that's not really proper. Regardless of what you think of the other parties, okay, they might not be the best in your mind, or they might be brilliant in your mind, I don't know. But either way, it's ridiculous that in a country the UK size, we may have like a Scottish English Parliament's fair enough, but it's all the same really. You get 60 million odd people in these countries between them all. People should be out there actually standing up for themselves and voting and shouting for the party they want in there, putting people forward for election that are fresh and new, making it very democratised, showing an example to the world, showing them that we can actually stand on our own 2 feet. We don't need to have hysteric measures or whatever to actually cutbacks and so on to actually survive. We should be able to make brave decisions through democracy. We should be able to make brave decisions for ourselves. We should be able to stand up and talk to each other and say, okay, we can see we've no money now, this is the answer here. And the answer might not be in the career politicians, it may be in the common man in the street who stands up at the next election and votes, or asks for votes. Or you might vote for a career politician. But every day don't leave it at 40%, the voting turnout. Everybody should get there and vote. That's why, because from the 18th century to now, there's been a process. That process went from like 3 people at 100 could vote, then it went to maybe like 5 people at 100 that could vote, then it went to about maybe 13 or 14 people at 100 could vote, then it went to a wee bit higher, quarter of the percent of the population could vote, and then all of a sudden it was 99% of the population. And since that time to now, that is the time that we've had to make decisions. We're all responsible for everything round about us for that time to now. So, from 1928 to now, that is. So, pretty much, we could take our responsibility again. Get out there and vote for the people you think are the best to run your country. If you don't like their policies, go and run yourself. Because that is the best way to go about it. Well, that's my voting type political thing on this politics thing tonight. I just think that people waste their vote when they don't turn up, and they should turn up. But that's just my opinion. Tells you what you think. Put something on the wall of this show if you want. You can check out my website www.radiotimemachine.co.uk, and you can go to the Spreaker gossip page even. There's a comment thing there. I think there's actually a comment thing on the have your say bit as well at the back of it. There is actually. So you can have a comment there as well. And I might even put a bit up about politics if we start getting a good response. So please check out the website, and also it's just a wee plug for the award ceremony we're doing tomorrow. We're doing the Radio Time Machine Awards, and there's different DJs and stations and so on getting nominated for things, awards. I say awards, will be a certificate they get or something. We'll print it out and send them it. But certainly go and vote. If you go to my awards tab on the Radio Time Machine website, you can vote for whoever you want. Yeah, and it shuts tomorrow at 5, the voting. And the show will be on about 8 o'clock tomorrow night on my station, Radio Time Machine. So happy that you listen to me, and the other people that listen to this, I hope you comment on it and tell us your view. It doesn't mean to say I'm right. I've just got an opinion, and I see it in a certain way where don't waste your vote, and if you don't like who's the options to vote for now, then go and run yourself. Yeah, I think that's fair and true. I think it's the way democracy works. And remember these people in Egypt right now fighting for freedom, and we have it already. Why waste it? Get out there and use your vote. The election, the Scottish referendum, for example, for the Scotland people, was 18th of September, that's next year, 2014, and then you have, or is it 23rd, that's what, September anyway. They keep milking that a wee bit as well, because it's just to had it a way back, shouldn't they, and just get out of the road, and just see people say yes or no. I don't think they're any further forward in their yes campaign or their no campaign. I think people are still kind of fed up with it, and that's maybe an example of why should people vote. I wonder what the turnout's going to be in that referendum. It's going to be interesting to see, though. It'd be interesting to see if they actually did get it, what would happen to the UK, because some presidented. It was easier putting it together in 1707, with King James, it's put it together and so on, the Crown of the Unions, but separating it I think is going to be a difficult process, and brave people will try to attempt that if that was to come, because that is a massive task. So yeah, see what Scottish people vote in that. Then you've got the Scottish elections no long after it, and I would say to people turn up for that, because there's no guarantee SNP is going to get in again. It could be Labour, so if you did get independent Scotland, it could be Labour that rules that. It could be a coalition. The Scottish Parliament is designed for coalitions, maybe not designed for like majorities, which is like why the SNP are historic in the last election, because pardon me, they actually got a majority of Parliament, which totally broke the mould. Have a drink of water there. So it's going to be interesting after the independence referendum where that all goes, who's going to get in power. And then you've got the Westminster election about 6 months later, and that's obviously down in England, and between the three kind of main parties, the Libs, the Conservatives and the Labour. And you could say Miliband is trying to kind of put himself forward as a candidate for Prime Minister. He's no Tony Blair, who was a total iconic figure despite all his kind of controversy. He was certainly someone who understood a strategy, and he had a good team behind him probably as well. So it's very hard to work out where that's going to go, and if the unions are not backing them and stuff like that as well, who knows where that goes. Conservatives, you could say they could get in another term, because even though they might be not popular in a lot of the things they're doing, people maybe have awareness that they are trying to help the country in some way, and that is cut back this kind of debt that one might have, although nobody's quite showed us a bit of paper yet to say this is what we owe. No, it's like a kind of bank statement type thing, just to see what we've got left to pay off, but nothing's ever appeared of that. Or it could be the Liberal Democrats, but I don't think so. I think they've kind of burnt their bridge with a lot of voters. However, never say never on that one, because politics is a funny old game, and people might not want Conservatives, they might not want Labour, they might actually choose the Liberal Democrats as a full party to actually try and heal everything we have here, because at the moment, if I'm right in saying, the Labour and the Conservatives are basically saying more cutbacks after the next election, and if Labour get in, they're going to cut back and so on. It seems to be the trendy thing right now. But the Liberal Democrats more liberal and more laissez-faire, is it? What to kind of spread the things about a wee bit and make things more equal, and people might want a taste of that. So regardless of and by the way, and because they've had a taste of power as well, people might consider that their training ground. The Liberal Democrats had their training ground, because way back in the 1900s or before that, just before that, they were quite a decent party. They'd done okay, and it's only weakened through the wars, especially the Second World War, with Churchill and that obviously reigned, and the coalition there at the Second World War, but certainly Labour and the Conservatives are the ones that are more powerful within that, because the Labour come up with the Beveridge, obviously William Beveridge, and the Five Giants and so on, that brought on the welfare state. That's got another topic, but certainly it's going to be interesting to see how people actually do vote and what the turnout is going to be. There's three massive election type things, even though the referendum's a referendum. It is some sort of body of people getting up and voting, and it's going to be interesting to see how that goes, and if that will have an effect on the Westminster elections. So the Scottish thing could actually have an effect on the Westminster thing, and yeah, it's going to be interesting. And a lot of the English people now want rid of Scotland because I think it's costing them money, which is maybe a kind of byproduct of this cutback stuff as well. People got in their heads that they're skint and stuff, and they don't want to spend money on things that it's not no relevant to their country. So there is divisions there, and probably quite volatile divisions as well, unless they're kind of handled in nice kind of diplomatic, democratic style. We don't want any kind of civil thing breaking out. So certainly it's going to be interesting to see. My message to everybody would go there and vote for what you believe in, and if you don't believe in any of it, then stand up and be counted in a way, because people can vote for you. Put yourself forward for election. Put yourself forward for a parliament, the Scottish Parliament, Westminster Parliament, the referendum. You can't put yourself forward for that. It's just a question. So I would say turn up. If you're Scottish, turn up and answer it. Everybody should answer that question, yes or no. It's not the hardest thing in the world. It take 10 minutes of your day probably, or 20 minutes of your day. You should just go and answer it. So the voting thing, should you vote? Yeah, you should. It's the best system we have at the moment till somebody comes up with a better idea. And why do people vote? It's so they can have a better say. And why do they need a better say? Because freedom is limited. It's limited to the powers that we give it to, and we have a certain amount of freedom to work out what we're going to do as a job, what we're going to do maybe when we wake up in the morning, and what we're going to watch at telly at night, what car we're going to drive, yeah, how many children we're going to have, who we're going to marry, you know, all these things, where we're going to go shopping. So pretty much all this stuff is our freedom, and the rest of the stuff that we probably don't even understand is the government's freedom. They take that freedom, that's our freedom, we give them our permission to make decisions for us. So choose very wisely. Choose very, very wisely and use that vote, or we'll end up in the same mess we're in at the moment, where 6% don't vote, and then they wonder why the world's knackered, or even their country's knackered. So that's my politics ramble, and I hope it was entertaining and maybe even educational, or controversial, or something that sits well with you. Whatever it may be, go to the website www.radiotimemachine.co.uk. Throw some comments on the website if you want. Yeah, there's comments pages there. Have your say, and there's also the Spreaker gossip page, and remember to vote in the RTM awards as well. Yeah, that'll be pretty good. So pleasure talking to you all again, and I think there's a music show on Radio Time Machine right now that Jamie and that's doing, so maybe you can tune into that, and you can check out TGS-FM as well, which is a really good station. And the other plugs I've given is Ultra, Spectrum, SSR, which is Supersonic Radio, and a bit of Storm FM. Yeah, can't go wrong there, guys. And my good friend, Big Tiny. Alright, thanks a lot. I've been Tommy, and I hope you enjoyed that. And any questions, then feel free to email me, and you can get me on the website. You can contact me through there. That's me. Bye bye.